Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin Sunday. Welcome to the program. Two great guests, General Jack Keane and Selena Zito, her first interview in our upcoming book, Butler, which is an unbelievable book on the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. So you're not going to want to miss this. But before we do that, well, there's been a little kerfuffle between President Trump and Elon Musk. Now, I don't know Elon Musk. I think I bumped into him once. I know Donald Trump very well. My view of this is the first shot was fired by Musk on this budget stuff, and the president is desperately trying to get his tax cuts through. And then there was another shot. I think the president said that's enough. But you know what, America? I see all the media is excited about this. The Democrats are absolutely frothing at the mouth over it. In the end, it's not a big deal. I want to give you a little history lesson. We love to do history here, the Constitution, philosophy. I want to give you a little history, and I think you're going to find this fascinating with some help from our friends at historytools.org. Remember Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, our second president and our third president? The story of Thomas Jefferson and John Adams is one of the most captivating and consequential relationships in American history. Friends, rivals, fellow architects of a new nation. Their interactions over half a century tell the tumultuous tale of the United States founding and early growth. Through their unique bond, personalities, and eventual reconciliation, we gain a richer understanding of the men themselves and the twisting path of the country they helped create. Despite their disparate origins and styles, Jefferson and Adams discovered a deep kinship when they first met as delegates to the Continental Congress in 1775. They brought together by a shared commitment to American independence and government by the people. They worked closely together on the committee tasked with drafting the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia. In a decision that would echo through history, Adams persuaded the committee to tap Jefferson as the document's primary author. He later explained his rationale. He said, "You can write 10 times better than I can." It was an act of generous deference that Jefferson never forgot. That summer of 1776 in sweltering Philadelphia, laboring together over the Declaration, a deep bond was forged between Jefferson and Adams through their intense collaboration. And as a Virginian and New Englander, their perspectives were complementary, and they found that their minds met on the most fundamental principles of self-government and liberty. During long sessions at the City Tavern and their rented lodgings on High Street, the two men engaged in impassioned discourse on Enlightenment philosophy, political theory, and classical history. United in purpose and passion, they toiled to craft a document that would forever alter the course of world events. From preamble to conclusion, the Declaration was a work of joint genius. Adams's fierce convictions and pocketbook of English liberties married with Jefferson's soaring prose and vision of fundamental human equality. In the 1780s, with the Revolutionary War won, Jefferson and Adams found themselves partnered in a new diplomatic arena as ambassadors in Europe. Jefferson was dispatched to Paris, the refined capital of an absolutist monarchy, while Adams took up his post in London, the bustling heart of a constitutional empire. For Jefferson, still grieving the loss of his wife Martha in 1782, the correspondence and company of the Adams family was an immense comfort. He said, "When I come to Europe, I must be contented to hope for the day when we can all be together." Jefferson wrote to Abigail Adams, "This will be the great day of my life." He cherished his visits to the Adams London home, delighting in Abigail's wit and John's encyclopedic knowledge of history and law. So they were like this. Their letters from this period reveal not just their continued political strategizing on behalf of their fledgling nation, but also an increasing intimate friendship. They exchanged reading recommendations, relayed amusing anecdotes from their time in the courts of Europe, and shared their wistful hopes for retirement on the tranquil banks of the Rappahannock or the Potomac. It was also during the 1780s that subtle seeds of their later political differences began to sprout. Jefferson became ever more enthralled with French culture and the Enlightenment spirit of reform, while Adams grew warier of the excesses of European high society. In long letters, they debated the nature of aristocracy, the perils of centralized power, and the role of reason in statecraft. And despite these emerging disagreements, their mutual respect and affection stayed strong. Well, it wasn't going to last. The 1790s saw the Jefferson-Adams friendship stretched to the breaking point as the politics of the young republic grew increasingly polarized. Under President George Washington, two rival factions crystallized: the Federalists, led by Alexander Hamilton, who favored a strong central government, close ties to Britain, and conservative fiscal policies, and the Democratic Republicans, championed by Jefferson and James Madison, who envisioned a more decentralized agrarian democracy allied with revolutionary France. Their differences burst into the open with a heated debate over ratification of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Now, keep in mind, Jefferson was not at the Constitutional Convention, but he had a somewhat of a role through Madison, who obviously was very involved. Jefferson was still in France. Adams argued vehemently for a more powerful executive branch, while Jefferson advocated tirelessly for stronger protections of individual liberties and limitations on federal authority. The 1796 election, in which Jefferson challenged Adams for the presidency, brought their rivalry to a bitter head. Jefferson acidly referred to his former friend as a monocrat with aristocratic pretensions. Adams attacked Jefferson's character and cast doubts on his patriotism due to his Francophilia in the midst of the quasi-war with France. When the electoral dust settled, Adams claimed a razor-thin victory with 71 votes to Jefferson's 68. As Adams' vice president, Jefferson was a thorn in the side of the administration, organizing opposition to Federalist legislation and preparing for another White House run. The XYZ affair and the quasi-war with France further inflamed the political divide, with the Federalists portraying Jefferson as a radical in league with the French Jacobins. Now, in this charged atmosphere, Adams signed the infamous Alien and Sedition Acts, a set of laws that empowered his government to deport foreigners and prosecute critics of the president. Jefferson saw the acts as a tyrannical overreach. Their conflict culminated in the election of 1800, which Jefferson dubbed the Revolution of 1800. In a reversal of fortunes, Jefferson topped Adams with 73 electoral votes against 65 for the incumbent. Apoplectic, Adams proceeded to appoint a slew of midnight judges, which brought us to this famous case of Marbury versus Madison that we've talked about here before, and other Jefferson foes to federal posts before leaving office. So he was loading up, to that extent, a minuscule, but nonetheless the federal offices, bureaucracy, with partisans. And then Jefferson comes in and he's surrounded by these partisans. The House of Representatives, still controlled by Federalists, bitter at Jefferson's victory, dragged out the final selection process through dozens of deadlock ballots. Ironically, it was Hamilton, Jefferson's archenemy, but a man who now detested Adams, who ultimately tipped the scales in Jefferson's favor, making him president of the United States. It was a devastating defeat for Adams, who promptly decamped Washington without attending his rival's inauguration. The once inseparable duo exchanged not a word for the next 12 years. So they despised each other after really loving each other. It was left to Benjamin Rush, Dr. Benjamin Rush, the eminent Philadelphia physician, a mutual friend of both Jefferson and Adams, who took it upon himself to repair the fractured relationship. Starting in 1808, Dr. Rush reached out to both men, imploring them to reconnect. He said, "You must not die before you have explained yourself to each other and to the world concerning your political opinions and conduct," Rush wrote to Adams. To Jefferson, he emphasized the importance of the, quote, Republican cause, unquote, and the need for its great champions to reconcile in their twilight years. Softened by age and the pleas of an old friend, Adams sent a tentative olive branch letter to Jefferson on January 1, 1812. And he said, "You and I ought not to die before we have explained ourselves to each other," he wrote, echoing Rush. Jefferson eagerly reciprocated, and so began a remarkable correspondence that would span 14 years and 158 letters. Their letters from 1812 to 1826 are among the most poignant and illuminating documents of the founding generation. With honesty, humor, and occasional hints of nostalgia, they reflected on their storied lives and the unfinished business of the nation they served. On July 4, 1826, in a stunning cosmic coincidence, both Jefferson and Adams died exactly 50 years to the day after the adoption of the Declaration of Independence they had crafted together. At his home in Quincy, 90-year-old Adams' last words were reportedly, "Thomas Jefferson survives." And unbeknownst to Adams, Jefferson had passed away a few hours earlier at Monticello at the age of 83. In the end, to this idea of political fellowship between Jefferson and Adams that endures a testament to the possibilities of friendship and forgiveness against the backdrop of partisanship and division. These two giants of the American experiment, so different in temperament and worldview, yet united in their commitment to human liberty, embody the internal tensions and promise of the nation they helped found. Their 50-year journey, from collaborators to rivals to reconciled friends, mirrors America's own halting progress towards a more perfect union. In navigating the tricky boundaries between individual liberty and common purpose, state and federal power, ideological purity and pragmatic compromise, Jefferson and Adams trace the outlines of the most fundamental debates of our democracy, debates that still resound today. To study the lives of Jefferson and Adams is thus to grapple with the essential nature of the American idea itself, an ongoing experiment in self-government, rife with setbacks and breakthroughs, conflicts and resolutions. Through their successes and failures, their agreements and arguments, their competition and comity, we can find both cautionary lessons and inspiring models for how to forge ahead as a nation. Now, this isn't an exact parallel, of course. Jefferson, Adams, Trump, and Musk. Donald Trump is the elected president of the United States, of the American people. He's trying to get a bill passed through Congress. These days, it's almost impossible. With the House of Representatives, where the Republican majority is a minuscule majority, and in the Senate, where the Republicans have about 6 or 8 rhinos or sort of liberal, left-center Republicans who seem to vote no on virtually everything. And so you have bare working majorities if they're working at all. You have a massive bill that's been proposed to secure the border, to build up our defenses, to cut taxes, as the president promised, not tax cuts for billionaires, as the left-wing Marxist Democrat kook keeps saying, but for working Americans, for blue-collar Americans, to get this economy really cooking, to put money back in your pockets. And of course, the Democrats oppose it. So I would suggest to the Republicans in the Senate, if you want to cut, then cut. Cut. Who's stopping you? Nobody. Just get your damn job done, and then get it to the House and get it passed so the American people can profit from it, and we can secure our borders even more, and we can do the things we need to do as a country. But I would say to Elon Musk that you attacked first publicly on the bill, and then you attacked again. You have every right to say what you want and do what you want. It's a free country. But you might want to pick up the phone, and you might want to give him a call. And Mr. President, I'm sure you would take the call, as I said earlier, because in the end, Donald Trump does have a very big heart, and he is willing to forgive. So this is my advice. The common enemy here at home is the Democrat Party that seek to fundamentally transform America. You see what they did with open borders. You see what they did with inflation. And the common enemy abroad is an Islamic regime in Iran that wants to get nuclear weapons and have missiles with which to attack our country, as well as the communist Chinese who seek to invade Taiwan while they're threatening Japan and South Korea and the Philippines and Australia, and of course Putin, who likes to pound the hell out of civilian centers in Ukraine. At least to me, those are common enemies. So I think this will pass. If Jefferson and Adams can get through it, I believe these gentlemen will get through it too.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.